What's the haps, Morgz MMA community? And look, I hate to say it, but they call me Mystic Morgz because I predict these things. I went 6 for 6 on all my predictions at UFC 292, and I'm not surprised. I'm not surprised. I told you if Morgz says it, it's facts, and you can bet the goddamn house on it. I got at least another week of being undefeated in this prediction game. You understand me? You understand? Anyway, let's get into the fights, okay? Tavares versus Chris Weidman. Look, I missed the first couple rounds because I was busy doing something, but from what I did see, I got in about midway through the second round. It just seemed like Tavares maintained the advantage throughout the fight, was able to stuff all the takedowns that were shot by Weidman. And look, on the feet, Weidman had absolutely nothing to offer. He looked slow, he looked sluggish, and he really showed his age in this fight. He did his best. He didn't come off as extremely confident, but look, I'm sure he gave it a red hot crack, yeah? And in that third round, I was cringing because Tavares was punishing him. Those leg kicks where Weidman started limping and could barely put any weight on it, I was terrified. And you could see the swelling on his leg. It was horrible. I honestly thought there was no way that one of those leg kicks didn't just break his leg. Very hard to watch. And if I'm Chris Weidman, look, that's got to be it, man. Because from what I've heard, he's torn a ligament in one of his legs. That's bad. He's already, 39, 40? Going to need another surgery. That's a whole nother year. What, you're going to come back for a title run at 40 when you can't even beat a washed-up Brad Tavares? Absolutely no chance. Don't be surprised if that's the last time we see Weidman in the octagon. But other than that, good job, Brad Tavares. I'm not sure where he goes from here. He's still... Beating Chris Weidman in this day and age isn't a very big achievement, especially coming off the injuries that he's had. So it'll be interesting to see who he fights next. Anyway, moving on. Marlon Vera versus Pedro Munhoz. Look, not the most eventful fight you've ever seen. Not the most eventful fight, but the thing is, it was a good performance from Cheeto, and he had Pedro Munhoz looking rough in that last round. Every punch he landed was rolling his eyes back in his head. Bobblehead on those jabs and his little T-Rex arms. He couldn't get Pedro Munhoz just could not get within striking range and land any effective offense. It was rough, but like I said in my prediction video, I predicted Cheeto to win by knockout. He still won, still Mystic Morgz, but I thought he'd get the knockout. But like I said in the video, Pedro had good success with his leg kicks. Let's say, 40 leg kicks. He landed 35% of his leg kicks, and someone like Sean O'Malley, someone like Corey Sandhagen, that leg's getting... he's already fought Sandhagen. We saw what happened. It was mainly the grappling. But against someone like Sean O'Malley, that leg is going to get chewed up. Absolutely chewed up. But the thing with Cheeto Vera is, if you're going to decision with Cheeto Vera, I don't know how you beat him, because he does not wear damage whatsoever. You can't even tell that he's been in a fight. He's not sweating, doesn't have a scratch on him. So if you're going off the unified rules and you're trying to decide who won the fight based on damage, good luck if you're fighting Cheeto Vera. You'd have to hit him with a sledgehammer to even get a scratch on him. Whereas Pedro Munhoz, bro, he looked like he'd been in a car crash. Absolute car crash. But that stiff jab was extremely effective against T-Rex Pedro Munhoz. There was nothing really he could do. And I reckon if he didn't have a head made of cobblestone, if that was another bantamweight in there with Cheeto Vera, some of those jabs might have been dropping some people. Cheeto Vera is practically guaranteed a title shot after that, after what happened in the main event. We'll get to that, obviously, but I'm not sure where Pedro goes from here. It was an alright performance, but he certainly could have done better. Anyway, moving on. Damon Blackshear versus Mario Batista. Look, in this one, it was back and forth. No one really took control to the point where it was like, this is his fight. This is his fight. But by the time we did get to the final decision, I did think Blackshear was going to get his hand raised. Look, I'm happy he didn't, because that's Mystic Morgz. I picked Mario Batista. I thought he would get a knockout due to the double weight cut, but honestly, it didn't seem to affect his performance too much. He seemed strong. He wasn't too slow on the feet. And again, Mario Batista was not prepared for a grappler of that level, especially training for Cody Garbrandt. And Blackshear looked huge. He looked absolutely ginormous. What I thought was really interesting was Mario Batista setting up that twister. I could not think of anything more incredible than Blackshear getting a twister last week and then getting submitted by a twister the week later. That would have been insane. I wish that happened. I thought Blackshear should have got his hand raised. I don't think he'd call it a robbery. It was a close fight, but I do think Blackshear edged it out. I'm happy he didn't, because that's Mystic Morgz. Undefeated, baby. Undefeated. Neil Magny versus Ian Garry. Look, this was a very interesting fight to me, because I was very excited to see if Ian Garry was about to get fraud checked by the most boring fighter in UFC history, but he passed the test, and with flying colours, might I add. From that first leg kick that swept Neil Magny off his feet, I'm like, oh, this is how this fight's going to go. He had absolutely nothing to offer him. The second leg kick he threw completely compromised that leg. Couldn't push off it to strike. Couldn't use it to hold him against the cage. Could barely even put any weight on it. Even when Neil Magny did get him in his element up against the cage, Ian Garry showed something that Phil Rowe didn't. Had a serious sense of urgency to fight off the hands, turn away, and as soon as the space was there, pushed right off and got right back into striking range and just was piecing him apart. Look, he is a little bit of a goose for what he was going after Neil Magny for at the press conference. I did think he took it a little bit too far, accusing him of whooping his children, when we all know he was just talking about getting a young up-and-comer like Ian Garry, and just in the moment said something a little bit stupid that could be taken out of context. But Ian Garry absolutely ran with it, and I'll tell you what, Neil Magny was not ready for that. It got under his skin, some serious psychological warfare, and he was fighting angry, he was fighting emotional, and against a somewhat of a sharpshooter like Ian Garry, it did not play into his favour. We all know Neil Magny most likely doesn't hit his kids, but that's neither here nor there. A lot of people talking about how Ian Garry couldn't finish a one-legged Neil Magny, but in my opinion, it doesn't really matter. He didn't want to rush it. He didn't want to get put in any bad positions. And how are you going to complain with an absolute domination? You could easily have a lot of those rounds as 10-8s. Neil Magny could not do anything whatsoever. Neil Magny looked like he wanted to cry the whole time, but you have to say, the ability to stay in there when you're getting pieced apart like that, very impressive from Neil Magny to show. Impressive in the sense that he didn't give up and showed real heart. What's really impressive was the performance from Ian Garry. One problem I do have is, after you've embarrassed a man like that, dominated him for 3 rounds and humiliated him at the press conference, there's no need to be going all Nate Diaz on him and flipping him off and digging it right into his head, you know what I mean? And respect to Neil Magny for, regardless of the decision, he was still clapping for Ian Garry, and I do think it was quite classless of Ian Garry. That's a veteran of the game, and I know you're trying to be Conor McGregor, but dial it back a little bit. There was absolutely no need for any of that. I don't know who he thinks he is for that one, but it kind of made me want to see Shavkat rip his head off, but we'll see how that fight goes when that comes. Maybe you'll get a Mystic Morgz prediction on that one. And another problem I had with Ian Garry was that sus-as video on Instagram. I did not need to see that. Cheeto Vera and Ian Garry in the shower, bum-ass naked. Bro, that was whack. It was probably Ian Garry's wife recording it, bro. Like, what's that all about? Absolutely unnecessary if you ask me. Anyway, co-main event, Zhang Weili versus Amanda Lemos. Look, I do not have a whole lot to say, because really what more is there to say than that was an absolute masterclass from Zhang Weili. It honestly reminded me quite a lot of a Volkanovski performance. It gave absolutely no space for Amanda Lemos to do anything aside from land a good couple cracks. She did land a couple good punches, but she was just outclassed everywhere. Again, if Lemos did have better wrestling, she might have had a better chance in the stand-up, but she had nothing to offer Zhang Weili. I was surprised there wasn't a finish, but when you're fighting at 115 pounds, I do understand that it might be harder to get people out of there. I'm not saying I wouldn't want to get hit by her. I'm not saying she doesn't hit hard, but I understand why she wasn't able to get that finish. in my personal opinion, Zhang Weili is easily the pound for pound number one in the women's divisions. Just an absolute powerhouse. The physicality on her is insane. And she just looked so much stronger than Amanda Lemos. Like, she could not do anything, and she could not get that girl off of her. After she fights Yan Xiaonan, I'd love to see her fight up the weight class, whether that's against Amanda Grasso or Valentina Shevchenko, whoever wins that fight. Hopefully it's Shevchenko, because that would be a very interesting matchup that I'd like to see. Honestly, I know she's a bit of a bum after that Carla Esparza performance, but I wouldn't mind seeing the trilogy. I know she's lost at both fights to Rose Namajunas, but I do think a trilogy would be very interesting, and I personally would actually favour Zhang Weili in that rematch. But again, you'll get a Mystic Morgz on that at a later date. They call me Mystic Morgz because I predict these things. People call me crazy, but I knew ALJO was getting slept. Look at me now. Look at me now. MMA guru saying people delusional for picking Sean O'Malley. Look at me now. Look at me now. That cracker can crack, and he cracked that chin like you wouldn't believe with a picture-perfect right hand. Shades of McGregor Aldo. Absolutely picture perfect. That right hand is a cannon, and he can knock anyone in that division out. And look, I'm serious. We're looking at a potential bantamweight GOAT if he can get some titled. I know it's crazy to say, but he will get spoon-fed perfect matchups, hopefully. And we're looking at a serious potential bantamweight GOAT here. Look, after that first round feeling out process for both men, my confidence for O'Malley went up that much after that first round, because I thought ALJO's best chance of victory was to absolutely go Khamzat Chimaev mode and bum rush Sean O'Malley. And when he didn't do that, I just knew Sean's confidence was going to go up. ALJO's confidence was going to go down, because there were some grappling exchanges, and Sean O'Malley, the slippery little bastard, slipped out every single time. And I'm sitting there wondering, how can you take down Henry Cejudo, but you can't take down frail old Sean O'Malley? Absolutely incredible performance from Sugar Sean, just like I expected. I thought ALJO needed to have a real sense of urgency to get Sean to the ground, and I don't know who he thought he was, throwing a 1-2, leaving his chin out on a silver platter against a sniper like O'Malley in that bantamweight division. After that first round, I was really nervous for him, because I thought it's only a matter of time before he gets hurt. And when he did get into the grappling exchanges, I just thought ALJO was rushing everything. He just needed to slow down, get a hold of O'Malley. It doesn't matter if you don't take him to the ground. Make him clinch with you. Make him clinch with you, tire him out, get rid of some of that pop in those hands. And he just did none of those things. Even the interaction with his corner, when he went back to his corner, oh, it was a close round. Did I win that round? Did I win that round? Compared to Tim Welsh and Sean O'Malley. Tim Welsh really had Sean relax, breathe, calm down, we're in this. It was a great first round, feel the stool, this, that, the other, really just bringing him into the moment. Whereas I think ALJO's confidence really went down after that first round. Even when Sean slipped, ALJO couldn't do anything with it. Sean literally slipped, fell on the floor, and I thought, oh, that's bad. I thought ALJO was going to jump on him and really punish him for that mistake. And yeah, he did get to it pretty quick, but again, Sean O'Malley was too slippery, and he just looked way better than ALJO. And it is so insane to say that, because even I was going on the puncher's chance. I thought he would be able to find that chin, and he did, but I wasn't expecting him to absolutely just mitigate ALJO's wrestling the way he did. He made ALJO look like an absolute amateur. And ladies and gentlemen, we are looking at an absolute superstar. Absolute superstar. The UFC posted this knockout on their YouTube channel immediately after it happened. That never happens. They're really trying to blow this guy up, and I think it's going to work. His stock is going to rise so much now that he's champion. He's going to become so much more famous, and I do think it really is good for the sport, because ALJO and Morgz were really holding that division, because Morgz was beating all the contenders. And he was pretty much defending ALJO's title for him. It was pretty stupid, if you ask me. So I am quite happy that Sean O'Malley cracked that chin. I think ALJO got a lot of hate for no reason. I think he was overhated as a champion. I never really had a problem with him. Obviously had a problem with the way he won the title, but I think he did the best that he could as champion, and that's all you can really ask for these guys. I think he has absolutely no chance of getting a rematch, because look, that was not close. And I know he was a good champion, but that was not close whatsoever. The UFC doesn't like him, and the UFC does not want to risk ALJO getting that belt back. He's going to get Cheeto spoon-fed to him, and I reckon he doesn't knock Cheeto out, because Cheeto's indestructible for some reason. I think he'll get Cheeto. I think he'll get a decision over Cheeto, or he could finish him. Who knows? And that would be very, very interesting to see. I reckon he gets Cheeto, and then he fights Sandhagen. Now, that'll be interesting to see, because I do think Sean O'Malley is the better striker, better timing, and the harder hitter than Sandhagen. But Sandhagen can hang with just about anyone, and he does have that grappling like we saw in the Cheeto fight. So that'll be a very interesting interaction there. ALJO looked like an absolute bum, and we could be looking at a serious future bantamweight GOAT contender. I could end up eating my words and he gets finished in the first round again against Cheeto. But look, there's no doubting Sugar Sean O'Malley. Look, thank you all so much for watching my first post UFC card breakdown video. 6 for 6, Mystic Morgz. Don't forget, like and subscribe for more videos. That's the Haps Mum's Soul.